This just shows how desperate this guy is for political power. I think I struck a nerve with this guy.
A hot-tempered debate in the tight U.S. Senate race between Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan and Republican J.D. Vance. Thanks for joining us for Face the State. I'm Clay Gordon. Tracy Townsend will return next week. An average of recent polls shows how close this campaign really is. Vance has a small edge with just weeks left until Election Day. Here are where the candidates stand on some of the big issues, and we start with abortion.
So Lindsey Graham, who is a major leader in the Republican Party in the Senate, has said he wants a national abortion ban. And we've seen how difficult this has been here in Ohio. We see a couple stories every week where women are in difficult circumstances and Ohio healthcare workers won't take care of them. So they have to go to Illinois or they have to go to Indiana with a tragedy. Pregnancy through rape, a tragedy towards the end of a planned pregnancy. When you have a room, a crib, binkies, blankets, parties planned, it's tragic. And JD and his extreme crew, they want to have a national abortion ban. They're not happy with people having to go to Illinois. They want people to get a passport and have to go to Canada. Largest governmental overreach in the history of our lifetime.
The 10-year-old girl who had to travel to Indiana to get an abortion, obviously an incredibly tragic situation. I'm the father of a 9-month-old girl. It's unbelievable. I can't even imagine what it would be like to have that happen to your child, or God forbid, if you were a young woman, to have that happen to yourself. That little girl was raped by an illegal immigrant, and both the media and Tim Ryan need to be honest about the fact that she would never have been raped in the first place if Tim Ryan had done his job on border security.
Now, when it comes to the problem of inflation, here's how the candidates said they would solve the issue for Ohioans.
I understand that, and that's why I've been calling for a tax cut in the short term to put money in people's pockets. JD said that that was a gimmick, but it's actually an opportunity for us to put more money in people's pockets. The Inflation Reduction Act also drives down our deficit by $300 billion, which will help pull some money out of the economy. And one of the big drivers of inflation is that our supply chains are locked up. So over the last 30 or 40 years, there were a lot of really wealthy people, and Democrats and Republicans passed trade deals that shipped our jobs overseas. Now, here we have a pandemic, economic collapse, our supply chains aren't here. And so the Inflation Reduction Act is saying, how do we bring the supply chains back? And that's what we've been working on here.
He says that I believe the tax cut is a gimmick. I think a tax cut's a great idea, but when you propose it, Tim, it is a gimmick, because in your time in Congress, you voted to raise taxes $6.7 trillion, 113 times, and just a few weeks ago, in the Inflation Reduction Act itself, it raises taxes by $20 billion on working people in this state and in this country, and then it sticks 87,000 IRS agents to go after them. I think to bring down inflation, we need to do two things. First of all, we need to stop spending money that we don't have. The runaway spending is one of the reasons why we have inflation.
When it came to the topic of gun control, the candidates were asked where they stood on the controversial Ohio law that allows teachers to be armed.
I just think it's very, very dangerous to think that you're going to have a school teacher shooting into a crowd of kids. And I get the sentiment, for sure, because it's scary. But the question is, in all of these instances, we tried to pass some reasonable gun safety legislation that Rob Portman supported. It was a bipartisan effort, and J.D. Vance opposed it. Like, this was not an extreme bill. This didn't close the gun show loophole. It didn't go into background checks. It didn't go into the Charleston loophole. It didn't go into any of that stuff, which I support. But he was against it.
I think allowing properly trained teachers to carry firearms can be part of the solution. I think increasing funding for school resource officers can be part of the solution. I think a very, very important part of the solution of reducing crime, both in our schools and in our streets, is making sure, and it sounds crazy common sense, but making sure that we lock up violent criminals. And here's the thing about Tim Ryan. Tim Ryan, when he was running for president, of course, he was a different guy 2 years ago when he was running for president. He supported ending cash bail. And we know, just in this community, a guy who was let out on nominal bail, who went and got a gun and went and murdered somebody in this community because we don't have the proper policies in place to ensure the violent criminals go off for a long time.
And when asked how they would tackle the opioid epidemic, the candidates actually shifted the conversation to border security.
Stronger border, more border patrol. I disagree with President Biden when he's talking about relaxing some of the regulations down on the border. Completely disagree with that. Again, taking on my own party when I think they're wrong. I started the Border Technology Caucus. How do we use technology today to be able to keep this junk out of our country? And we have to punish the Chinese because they know it's getting into our country. We have to punish the Mexicans, the Mexican government, because it's getting processed there and coming into our country. So we've got to do the security piece. And I was a lead sponsor with Senator Portman of the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act.
But let me address a bigger issue here. So what Tim Ryan said about dealing with border security actually sounds okay, but it goes to the heart of why Tim Ryan has been a failed leader and would be a failed senator. You cannot honestly pretend to be a defender of border security when you have voted for amnesty multiple times in the Congress. You cannot pretend to be a defender of border security when you have voted against border wall funding multiple times. You know, members of Congress get to take somebody to the State of the Union address. And a few years ago, Tim Ryan took somebody to the State of the Union address, not somebody affected by the opioid problem, not a steel worker who lost his job because Tim Ryan didn't do his. He took an illegal alien. His entire 20 years in Congress, he has been anti-border security, and now we're paying the consequences for it. And my simple argument to Tim Ryan, or to especially people in the Mahoning Valley, is if you don't do your job, you don't deserve a promotion. Do your job on border security, Tim, then come and ask the people of Ohio for promotion to the U.S. Senate.
Now to the gubernatorial race. One political group is calling Ohio's governor out on his refusal to debate. We spotted this billboard at the corner of South High and West State Streets here in Columbus. The group Ohio Women Rising used this screen to ask why Governor DeWine won't debate his Democratic opponent, Nan Whaley. When we asked the governor about this was his response.
So I'm out every single day in Ohio, listening to the people of Ohio, but also available, for anyone to ask me questions. I do this every single day.
The governor's campaign did tell us he will participate in an editorial board with the Plain Dealer this week. According to a new USA Today poll, DeWine is leading Whaley 55.8% to 38.4%. Along with the Senate and the governor's race, Issue 1 will be on every ballot in the state come November. The amendment would change the way our state handles cash bail. State officials say it would make our streets safe, while civil rights activists say it widens economic disparities in our state. 10 TV's Yolanda Harris breaks down the issue.
I support State Issue 1 because it's really a matter of public safety.
Issue 1 is a direct response to an Ohio Supreme Court decision made in January. The justices decided judges in our state would no longer be required to consider public safety when it comes to cash bail. This is because they say it could lead to excessive bail amounts, which remains unconstitutional.
It changes that. It changes the Constitution, puts it right in there, and makes it clear that a judge can consider the safety of the community when they set bond. Just common sense.
Supporters of the issue claim it would help keep offenders from getting back on the streets and possibly committing more crime.
Especially in domestic violence cases, we have this constantly where people are getting out and they go back and abuse their wife again.
Those against the issue claim it would only widen racial and economic disparities in our state.
Issue 1 will actually just allow courts to set high cash bail that has nothing to do with the person returning to court under the guise of public safety.
A policy manager with the Office of the Ohio Public Defender says the amendment would promote the theory guilty until proven wealthy.
What will happen is then wealthy people who may or may not be dangerous will just pay their bail and they'll go home. whereas low-income Ohioans will not be able to do that.
On November 8th, Ohioans will be charged with deciding whether Issue 1 should be amended into our state constitution.
Crime prevention is victim prevention. And so that's why we need to support issues like this.
And the data is really clear that when individuals are stuck in jail, when they are legally innocent, waiting for their trial, they are more likely to lose their jobs, their homes, their families.
Yolanda Harris reporting there. Issue 2 is also statewide and concerns who can legally vote. If Issue 2 is approved, these would be Ohio's requirements. There are 2 changes here. Ohio already has a law declaring every citizen that can vote. Now it will only read that only citizens can vote. 17-year-olds who would be of legal age before the general election are currently able to vote in primaries, but Issue 2 would change that. Secretary of State's office released statewide voting numbers, which show so far 71,000 Ohioans have voted in person and 871,000 have requested an absentee ballot by mail. That equals to the amount of 943,000 ballot requests, which is a 2.7 increase from the same point in the 2018 gubernatorial election. A warning about scammers taking advantage of voters. Odds are you've gotten a call, text, or email from campaigns already trying to get your vote, but scammers are using that same tactic to get your information. Reporter Liza Lucas is showing you how to spot a fake.
Scammers prey on emotions.
Criminals know that voters care. And with the midterm elections here, the Better Business Bureau warns voters to be on alert.
Criminals are pretending to be affiliated with your party or your candidate.
While actual campaign supporters call people to conduct surveys or solicit donations, Simone Williams with the BBB says scammers often do the same thing.
They might receive a poll, survey, or donation request, but it's really can be an attempt to steal your personal information.
Williams says to watch for unsolicited phone calls, texts, and emails, especially hyperlinks, which can trick voters with a fake version of a candidate's website or install malware on your device. And while legitimate pollsters might ask for demographic information or want to know what party you support, a scammer will push for more.
Asking you personal questions like social security numbers or birth dates, that's a red flag.
Ultimately, if something seems off, protect yourself and take your questions to your local elections office.
The voters can always reach out to your local county board of election, and they'll definitely get you an answer.
Liza Lucas reporting there. Great reminder for these types of scams. Don't answer an unknown number. The BBB says the scammers can't trick you if they can't reach you. Coming up next, a vote of no confidence for 3 Hilliard school board members. Why some want the board members out and others are pushing that they stay. Welcome back to Face the State. This week, the Hilliard Education Association said it has lost confidence in 3 of its local board members. The group voted in what's become a strong warning to elected officials. 10 TV's Bryant Somerville shows us why that decision was made and why some parents disagree with it.
That we have voted no confidence in Nadia Long, Beth Murdoch, and Zach Forrest.
This cell phone video, taken last Monday at the Hilliard City Schools Board of Education meeting, shows Hilliard Education Association President Lena Jordan telling the board that 3 members have received a vote of no confidence.
We don't believe they can carry or uphold the values of the organization and of our district.
She claims members Beth Murdoch, Zach Vorst, and board president Nadia Long violated board policy.
What we are hoping for is that the board members know that we are watching them and their lack of transparency and procedure.
She claims the tipping point was the meeting on September 12th, when she says a matter was discussed, and instead of taking it to a required second and third reading, President Long put the matter to a pass or fail vote.
On this specific issue, it boils down to religious bigotry.
Lisa Breedlove Chafee is the Director of Parents' Rights and Education for Ohio. She is the parent of a 10th grade student in the district and took this video last week. She says the issue that was voted on concerned the policy allowing students to receive off-campus religious training during the school day. The matter passed 3-2. Chafee says the uproar is because the union never wanted the matter to pass. Jordan disagrees.
The issue was not with the vote itself, it was with the last-minute changes in the language.
Jordan says 2 of the board members did not receive the language on the issue until hours before the meeting, and that close to 800 of the union's 1,200 plus members signed the petition. Those signatures, because of what she calls harassing emails to the teachers, have not been released.
Until we see those signatures, I don't believe they exist.
Jordan says it's that lack of transparency and flagrant violations in policy that she says do not represent the values of parents, students, and citizens of Hilliard. Chafee sees it as an unneeded political tug of war.
It seems like you are saying there might need to be a vote of no confidence for union leadership.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Bryant Somerville, 10 TV News.
Jordan says they are not asking for board members to resign. They only want matters to be handled by the book. President Nadia Long responded to the vote. Her statement said in part, quote, board members and district personnel will not always agree. However, we all support the academic commitment plan with the goal of implementing innovative approaches toward building students' success. Long also said they tried to come to the table with the HEA and a federal mediator. This week, House Democrats introduced a new House bill that would support child sexual assault survivors. Democrats from Youngstown and Akron introduced House Bill 732. They are calling it the Protect Child Victims Act. It would give child sexual assault and abuse victims the ability to apply for an emergency award for any health care treatment, including abortion care. We spoke with one of the sponsors of the bill.
This bill came out of just sheer horror and disgust when the entire world heard of the 10-year-old Ohio child who had to leave because she was 6 weeks and 1 day pregnant after being sexually assaulted. And we realized that not everyone has the resources that they need for them to travel out of state. There are lost wages that have to come into consideration. There are travel expenses, hotel rooms, plus abortion care in another state. So this is something that these families or these children of sexually abused children and these victims in these situations need these resources immediately.
The Ohio State University being honored for its mission to be inclusive to all.
The university and the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center demonstrated a clear commitment to building and maintaining a community that reflects diversity and improves opportunities for all.
Ohio is a disability inclusion state and a model employer of individuals with disabilities. The award is part of the state's way of bringing attention to National Disability Employment Awareness Month. This is the 5th time Ohio State has been recognized for this award. It's official. The federal government's website to apply for student loan forgiveness is now up and running. But how hard and complicated is the application process? 10 TV's Olivia Eugenio has everything you need to know to get your money.
We wanted to see how long it would take to fill out the student loan forgiveness form. We were done in under a minute, just like Joshua and Logan Cook.
Absolutely. I was like, oh, this is going to be like another homework to do thing or like doing my taxes, and it wasn't at all. It was really easy.
The two both went to Ohio State and graduated with debt.
I owe like $55,000 approximately.
And I'm $35,000.
But they qualify for student loan forgiveness.
Today, I'm announcing how millions of people, working and middle class folks, can apply for get this relief, and it's simple and it's now.
President Biden announced today the site to apply for student loan forgiveness is up. Here's who qualifies. If you are single and make under $125,000 a year, and if you're married and make less than $250,000 a year, then you'll get money. You'll get $10,000 if you did not receive a federal Pell Grant and $20,000 if you did.
That can be a huge amount. About a third of the people out there, that $10,000 completely wipes out their student loans.
And since both Joshua and Logan had Pell Grants, they're getting $40,000 in forgiveness, an amount of money that's life-changing.
Being able to be out of debt by, and not have to pay on loans into our retirement, it's a lot. It's hard to get back on your feet.
Olivia Eugenio, 10 TV News.
So when will you get your money? It's still unclear. Legal challenges could delay the process or even derail the program. So there's no rush to apply. You have until the end of 2023 to make your claim. First Intel, then Honda. Now another manufacturing company in Ohio is getting a boost from millions in federal funding. Welcome back. Right now, our state is set to get a chunk of a nearly $3 billion federal grant to promote manufacturing. The White House made the announcement earlier. All the money will go toward election vehicle battery production in 12 states. $75 million will go to Cerba Solutions, which is expanding in Lancaster.
So essentially what we're doing here is incentivizing private companies to build the kind of things that batteries need in it to work, so that manufacturing facilities can put the battery together and then car manufacturers can put the batteries in the car to make them work. So that, on top of the EV charging stations that we're laying down, these are the investments that are actually going to ease up our supply chain, make us more energy dependent, and make sure that we have high paying jobs that are making products that are actually made in America.
NTV keeping an eye on Intel. Licking County is experiencing what many are calling the Intel effect. Ever since the company announced it would build the world's largest semiconductor plant, land prices and home prices are the highest in a decade. As 10 TV's Kevin Landers explains, even if you don't live near the site, you won't be able to escape it all.
Intel won't have this site completed until at least 2025, but its impact on land and housing prices in Licking County is already being felt.
Thanks to Intel, the price of an acre of land in Licking County is higher than it's ever been, says Licking County Auditor Michael Smith.
So we're seeing increases on just farmland, maybe $20,000 an acre in 21 to $45,000 an acre in 22.
And that's a $25,000 jump in 1 year.
The values closest to Intel are increasing at a much higher rate than anything else in the county.
When the New Albany company assembled the pieces of land to acquire the Intel site, even Intel had to pay more than it was worth.
The New Albany company ended up purchasing for about $70,000 an acre, and then ended up selling that to Intel for about $110,000 an acre.
It's not just farmland that's going up in value. Home prices here are also on the rise.
We're seeing probably a 30 to close to 40% increase just in residential values.
Realtor Andrew Guancel runs one of the largest realtor companies in the area. He says low-price Licking County is history.
Best time to buy land in Licking County was about 5-10 years ago.
He says most realtors used to know what homes would sell for a year or two out, but Intel changed that.
That crystal ball's kind of gone out the window.
He says the reason is more people are moving to the area, but the supply of homes isn't keeping up with demand.
If somebody had a need for a condo on a Saturday, you could show them 10. And now it's literally a rat race.
Add in the Intel effect, he says, and homes are selling for much more after Intel's announcement. He says even if you don't own a home near Intel, the impact on the housing market will be felt in neighboring counties.
Do you see the prices of land and prices of homes going up outside the ring of the Intel border?
Yes, definitely. And we've already seen it.
For decades, Licking County was always seen as a place where someone could buy an affordable home. Experts say now trying to find a house under $300,000 is almost unheard of. Reporting from Licking County, Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
So let's talk about the numbers. In September of last year, the median listing home price in Licking County was $310,000. That's up 14.9% year over year. I want to say thank you for being with us here today. And remember, if it affects you, your family, and Ohio, we're here to make sure those accountable face the state.